Each year, over 400,000 Americans die from smoking-related illnesses. That's more than the population of Grand Island, Kearney, and Lincoln combined. Hi, my name is Sarah Davis, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the true effects of the use of nicotine and smoking tobacco. I chose to talk about this because my summer began with my fiance's dad, who recently quit smoking but had been smoking for many years before, had a stroke. He's made a full recovery, but it was just a very scary time, and it made me want to learn more about the effects of smoking and nicotine. So I'm going to talk about the classification of different drugs and how nicotine and tobacco are not on that list, and the history of smoking and tobacco, and the effects that smoking and nicotine have on a person. To start with the classification, in 1970, the U.S. government decided to make a classification of different drugs. There are 5 different schedules. Schedule 1 is very dangerous drugs that have no medical purposes at this time, things like cocaine and heroin, and it goes down to Schedule 5 drugs, which have a lot of medical uses and are not very harmful, things like cough syrup with not a whole bunch of alcohol in it. Cigarettes have over 7,000 chemicals in them, 80 of which are known causes of cancer. However, cigarettes and tobacco are not even on any of the classifications, basically saying that it's really not that bad. This schedule and classification hasn't been changed since the 1970s, but it's a big problem that people need to know that cigarettes are worse than they seem to think for them. Next, the history of nicotine and tobacco. Just like caffeine is a natural insecticide for the cocoa plant and coffee plants, nicotine is a natural insecticide for the tobacco plant. Christopher Columbus was the first person in the known world to try tobacco. The Native Americans who were in the New World gave him some to try when he discovered the New World. He then took it back to Europe, and it was just very popular. And in the 1570, they believed that tobacco could cure over 36 diseases. It just continued to become more and more popular, and in the 1870s, nicotine, the true form of nicotine, was found, and it was determined that it was bad for people. Very addictive, very bad. But in the early 1900s was when cigarette companies were founded, and just cigarettes became very commercialized. And every single study that came out that showed that smoking was bad for you, nicotine was bad for you, cigarette companies just said, no, it's fine, like, it's not a big deal. And in World War II, actually, cigarettes were part of soldiers' rations, like food and water were. This continued until 1964, when the Surgeon General came out with an article about smoking and health, stating that smoking cigarettes was indeed bad for you. This allowed the government to put regulations and high taxes and stuff like that on cigarettes. And in 1984, the Surgeon General came out with another article saying that secondhand smoke could cause cancer, and this allowed for smoking bans. Recent legislation and movements have been directed towards young adults and teenagers, called like the real cost movement. This tries to discourage young adults and teenagers from beginning to smoke in the first place by informing them that smoking causes premature wrinkles and losing your teeth and everything. So the true effects of cigarettes actually starts from the nicotine. There's this chemical in our brain called dopamine that is released when we eat or drink water when we're thirsty or hungry, and it lets our brain know that it's good, it needs this food and this water. The nicotine in cigarettes causes our brain to just be flooded with dopamine, and it tricks our brain into thinking that it needs cigarettes and nicotine like it needs food and water, according to Fisher. Also, it lowers our oxygen levels in our blood. If you were smoking the tobacco, it lowers the oxygen levels, which allows for clots because our blood is thicker, and which causes a greater likelihood of things like stroke and heart attack. And like I said before, there's over 7,000 chemicals in cigarettes, and nicotine is far from the most harmful of those. It's not any of the 80 that is a known cause of cancer, it's just the addicting factor. And it actually has been shown in studies, according to Gayo et al. And Villafane et al., that nicotine actually can prolong the onset of Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. In conclusion, I think people know now that smoking is bad. Some people just ignore it and choose to smoke anyway. But this really breaks down why it's bad and how it's bad, because people, if you just ignore it, your brain gets addicted to it, and then it just causes so many health problems for you. And I feel like the most important thing to remember is, just because like production companies say that something is good for you and it's okay, it's not a big deal, to remember that they have a hidden motive. They want you to buy their product, and to not just get it because people say it's okay. A good example of this right now is e-cigs. A lot of kids are trying e-cigs because they say, oh, it's just water vapor, like it's not a big deal. But studies have not been done on e-cigs yet, and government regulations have not been found on e-cigs, have not been done on e-cigs, and so it's really just people don't know for sure. They could be doing whatever they want. So just do more investigation than just what the advertisements and the production companies say, because it's important for your life to know what you're putting into your body. Thank you.